Welcome back, students, to the virtual classroom for Comp 3077. This is your online professor, Mike. At this point, I assume you have viewed all of the videos required in the virtual classroom previous to this one. This is going to be your week 2 lecture. So this is how things will go from here on in, from this point forward, so to speak. There's a lot of introductory type of stuff, orientation type of stuff in the first week there in the virtual classroom so that you understand how everything works. From now on, we will lecture, I will lecture the case in your weekly lecture video, then you will complete the case, and typically you'll have a SAM quiz with it as well. There are only a few exceptions when you don't have to do these two things, which would be your test weeks and your makeup week, and there's more details on makeup week in FOL. So this is your week 2 case lecture video. It is a required video. A couple quick things I'm going to show you that warning you often get when you log into SAM if you didn't properly log out the last time. I'm going to talk about the quizzes and the key codes, then we're going to demonstrate the week 2 case. It should be a quick one. So if I pop over here to Explorer, you can see that I'm getting this message now as I'm logging into SAM. This is something you may or may not get. It depends on how you logged out. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of this and that it is not a big deal. It doesn't really matter. It's just letting you know that you stayed logged in the last time you exited. And depending on how your browser closes, you may not get this message. But if you want to avoid getting it, you can just hit log out as you leave SAM. So this is not a problem. I'm going to click OK and log right in. And then I'm going to go to student view so I see what you see. And there's the log out button if you want to avoid getting that message if you are getting it. So as you can see, your calendar here now is showing quizzes scheduled. I know in the first couple of videos you didn't see those because I was saying just ignore the calendar altogether. Once I scheduled the quizzes, which are considered exams in SAM, even though I only refer to them as quizzes, that's all they are, they're 1% each, they appear in the calendar now. So again, just continue to ignore the activity calendar. As I explained before, and this is the last time I'll do this, we don't set due dates in SAM. Your professors have set a weekly due date, a deadline, when your work needs to be submitted to SAM, and that's when they will go in and take the grades that they will eventually put over into Fanch Online. So your assignments never go away. You can do them anytime. It's just if you don't do them by the deadline, you don't get credit for them in Fanch Online. They'll still be graded here, but your grades won't count if you don't turn them in on time. So in the activity list is where all your weekly stuff is. Now that we're getting into the process of this, as you can see, let me go just to your section here. This is what most of your sections would look like. You would just have the one section here, and you'd have week 2 stuff, week 3, week 4, and you just had the one case in week 1. So here now, starting in week 2, because your quizzes from this point forward will be on SAM and not on Fanch Online. That was only the week 1 quiz that was on Fanch Online. You'll have a quiz with each case. So I would complete the case first. I would watch my demonstration, then complete the case, and then just don't forget to go and do the quiz after. And I've already demonstrated how the quizzes work in your week 1 lecture video. So here's your week 2 case, and then your week 2 quiz, which it's there, it's up at the top there. And if you can't get the answers right, if you can't get at least to 70% on the quiz, I've explained how that works already in the previous video. You would use the training to help yourself through the quiz. And that's not required. The quiz is required to get your 1%. The cases are worth 4% each. Let's get into the week 2 case. Okay, so what we've just covered here, we talked about the currently logged in window, SAM quiz reminder, SAM key code reminder. Sometime, it depends on the semester and the timing, but sometime during week 3 of the term, you're probably going to be asked to put in your key code. You are all provided with free access until that point. None of your grades will go away if you don't have your key code the day that happens. Just make sure that you do go and get your key code. And if you get it by the end of week 2, most of your professors should have the extra credit Save My Key Code Dropbox set up to take a photo of it and put it in there by the end of week 2. So just make sure you hold on to it and you don't lose it. You're not going to have to put that in until it asks you for it. All right, let's do the week 2 case demonstration. So I'm going to grab the instructions. As I mentioned, at some point during the term, possibly at the beginning of the term, it depends on the semester, you may have been provided with a hard copy of these instructions, which does make things a bit easier, but you'll always have the online version here. And you can go right ahead and just open those right up. There's no specific protocol for how to save them. That's more associated with the start file. Okay, so here are the instructions. I'm going to click Enable Editing just so I can scroll through them a bit more easily. We're working for Spring Software Company. Our name is Brendan, and we're going to do a bunch of stuff to this file, just like we usually do. So first step, as always, is to get the file and rename it. And I'm going to show you the way that I recommend doing it, which is to get the file and rename it as you're saving it. So depending on your browser, this may or may not be possible, in which case you can just rename it once you get it downloaded to your computer. But as I explained in detail in my first lecture video, pay very close attention to where you're saving it, especially if you're in a lab. Because if you just open it into the temp folder, you're never going to find it again. So in Explorer, I can go here and save as. And Explorer is not my favorite browser, but it's the one that most campus labs have. So I'm using that in my videos. So here I have the option to save as, which will let me name it while I'm saving it and put it in a specific location. So I'm going to throw it on my desktop so it doesn't go missing. And I'm going to change the name as I save it. So all I did was change the 1 to a 2. That's the only part of the file you have to name. I save it onto my desktop. When I'm complete, when I'm done with it, and I go to upload it, it'll tell me what it should be named right here anyway. So if you do have some issues with the file name, it tells you right here what the name's supposed to be. Sorry, I'm not browsing yet. And that's the process every week. So some students have a little bit of trouble getting the hang of this because we are not good file managers, because technology nowadays has made us bad file managers because we never have to worry about what our files are named. But you do for this system to work. So make sure you always follow that first instruction. You can minimize this now, and you've renamed the file so you can just open it up and start working. And it makes a note not to mess with the extension, stuff like that. So we'll go right to the project steps and get going here. And this is how all the weekly case videos will run. We'll complete the case, and then you'll complete it on your own, and then you should have a quiz to do. And then we have a test in week 6 and 14. Okay, open the file up. Typically, depending on the browser you downloaded it from, you'll need to click Enable Editing in this file as well to be able to surf around. So I went through all the basic Excel stuff, basic navigation of a worksheet. You should be comfortable with that at this point, which means I'm not going to cover like the definitions of the Excel workspace and what a cell is and the really, really basic stuff. We've already done that. So now I'm taking it to the next case and just following the steps. So if you're a little lost, it's maybe because you haven't seen the first case yet or completed that work. So we're going to jump right to the expense by salesperson worksheet, assuming you knew or confirmed that your name was there. And we're going to start work. Okay, so back on the instruction sheet here, our first step is on that worksheet we just went to, expense detail, cut the contents of B1 to B3 and paste them into A1 to A3. So now you could also move them. SAM isn't like, the SAM cases are not like quizzes. It's not going to know if you cut or move them. Either one is fine. I'm going to follow the instructions and cut them. I taught you how to move in the last case there. So we're going B1 to B3 and moving from A1 to A3. So cut the contents from B1 to B3 and paste them in A1 to A3. Well, that's interesting considering this is already in A1 to A3. I must be reading something wrong here. So this is a good example of paying very close attention to the instruction. Okay, so I may or may not have done this on purpose because I want you guys to note how important it is to pay attention to the instructions. I simply jumped right to this worksheet because the last case we did, which was the first case, we just left the documentation sheet, went to the first worksheet. If you read the instructions, it does indicate you're supposed to be on the expenses detail worksheet. Okay, so I'm sitting there going, oh, that's a bit weird. Why isn't this? So just watch the instructions. So here now I see I have some stuff in B1 to B3. Easiest way to cut is a keyboard shortcut, which was on your first quiz. Control X, go to A1, Control V. Step number 1 accomplished. Now, add outside borders to A5 to D5. So here's a new thing that you might not have done before. Borders are very easy to find. There's a shortcut menu for borders right here. And if you click, it'll always default to the last border that was used on the computer using. So if you click on the drop-down arrow, if I click there, it'll show me all my options here. So highlight the cells first that you want to put the border on. A5 to D5. So we're still in this worksheet because it hasn't told us to leave. So go A5 over to D, and then go here and find outside borders. So it's actually the name of the option right there, outside borders. So you may on the quiz be asked to do something a little different with borders. Just choose the proper option. Outside borders. Now if I click off, I can see I've got a nice neat border around those cells. Change the width of column C to 16. So When you want to change a column width, you can easily take your mouse at the edge of the column, the right side of it, and drag, but it's kind of tricky to get your mouse to land right on it, because you might like bump it at the end there and now it's 16.14. See what I mean? So you're welcome to do it that way, but it's more accurate if you just sit. You can sit anywhere in the column, or you can highlight the whole column and go over here to Format and simply choose Column Width and type in the pixels. This might be slightly different on a Mac if your Windows settings are, or if your settings on your Mac operating system are a bit different, and it might not be in pixels, in which case you'll actually have to Google Google the pixel conversion. I think oftentimes Macs are in points, like you would have points instead of pixels. So I just Googled it, and here's an example of how to fix that, because you're going to need to put it in the exact size so that when Sam interprets it, it's 16 pixels. So it might involve like an extra half a minute of calculating for you if you're using a Mac, but that was one of those small things I talked about, and you can easily work around that if you just Google the conversion. So whatever units yours is in, if it's not pixels, you want to translate to pixels. So most of you will be in pixels. Column width 16. Now you know it's exactly 16. And that was step number 3. So step number 4, select B6 and edit the content to be 125.24. So a lot of the basic stuff we were doing last week, but a little bit of new stuff. We did some borders and a column width. So I'm going to go to B5. That's B6. And this should be 125.24. So somebody just kind of messed that one up. So 125.24. You can just overwrite what's in there. You don't necessarily have to edit what's in there and change it. You can just type right over it, and that'll work fine. Enter the values shown in Table 1 below in the corresponding cells in the range B20 through B25. So this is going to be one of those sections of a video where I will pause it and then just put them all in there. So you guys should pause as well, because you don't need to watch me type in each of these values. I'm pretty sure at this point, moving into the second case, you know how to enter data into cells. So go ahead and do that, and I'll do the same thing starting in B20. Okay, so I've put my data in there. Now, I want to show you a quick trick to getting it in there if you have the electronic version of the instructions open. You can do a little bit of cheating and copy and paste, and I don't have a problem with that, because really, you don't want Sam to be marking you down for typos. And if you're comfortable putting data into cells, you could just copy it out of there. So when you have a range, I just deleted it. So I removed it from there. Here's another way to do it. And I know I just made you type it in, but sorry, just good practice. If you have a table and you can highlight just the cells, even if it's in a Microsoft Word document like this, if you can highlight just the cells with the data in them, and you're going to also be pasting into a straight up and down area, like into a column like that, you can copy this, and like I showed you last week, you can just paste it right in, but the problem is it's going to carry over the formatting from the Word file. So either right before you paste it, you can right click and match destination formatting, or right after you paste it, you can go here and match destination formatting so that you only get the numbers. So that's a nice quick way to pull the data out of there and not have to worry about typos. Okay, number 6, select A26 and then enter the word total. So when they give you stuff to enter, they typically put it in bold type. That does not mean they need it to be in bold when you enter it. They will tell you if they want it to be in bold. They're just putting it in bold type so you know what to enter. If they give you a capital letter, put a capital letter. If they give you a small letter, put a small letter, and spell it the same exact way. Remember that you are being graded by a computer here. So we're going to enter the word total in A26. And it automatically came up bold. So they've already set the cell to be bold for you, so that was kind of cool. Then, add cell borders to the range A26 to B26 using all borders format. So A26 to B26, we're going to go with all borders, which is here, right there, all borders. See, so it'll always share the same name they give you the instructions. So it's just those two cells. It's not much of a range. In cell B26, use the sum function to create totals. So you don't have to do this the way I showed you last week. You don't have to type out the equals and type out the sum and start with the parenthesis, aka Canadian bracket. you can very simply use the AutoSum button in that cell. And when you hit AutoSum, it should pick up the closest adjacent range. Always check it to make sure that it's okay. That is the range you're supposed excuse me. That is the range you're supposed to be summing up, so you can go ahead and hit Enter. Always hit Enter. Once you have a formula set up to go in a cell, hit Enter. So that was your sum function for B6 to B25. So B6 to 25 is all summed up right there. So pretty basic stuff still. In cell D6, type TCM, and then in D7, type KTT. So, and they should be capital like that. These are clearly acronyms or abbreviations for something. So, TCM, KTT, TCM, KTT, Enter. Okay, so we've got a couple codes in there, like those would be like expense codes or some kind of product codes. And then we're going to use flash fill to automatically enter codes in the range D8 to D25. Okay, so this is something fairly new in Excel, and it's a little bit tricky. It's pretty high end for the second case in this course, but I think if you do it the right way, it's still a fairly easy concept. So flash fill, it's almost like Excel is kind of learning as you're typing something in. It's sort of adapting to how you're creating entries, and then it's going to predict what you probably want to do with the next several entries after you do a couple of them. So if you type these two in and just hit Enter, which is what I told you to do, I understand that it's actually not going to work. You may have seen, right as I typed in KTT, quickly flash on the screen a bunch of options for how you would complete that. So if you look at this, it's going to figure this out. It's Tori client meeting, TCM, Ken travel, KT, and then I suppose if there's not two words in it, you just repeat that letter twice. So Excel is figuring this out as you're typing it in. So here's what you do to make this work. Sit over the cells you just typed in and delete them both. Now we're going to do this with flash fill. Okay, because even the instructions don't really tell you to stop. Like they say, put these two in and then use flash fill. You actually have to be using flash fill as you're putting the second one in. Okay, now I did post an additional video on this for week 2. It's one of my optional videos done by another instructor who I thought it was quite well done for flash fill in Excel 2013. So if you want any additional info on this or a more involved explanation, you can refer to his video. Otherwise, do exactly as I'm doing. So as I explained, this TCM is based on the name plus the expense category. So is the next one. So if you type that one in, and then you start typing the next one in, type the K and the T, even just type the K. It automatically, now I've done nothing but hit the K. Don't keep typing, don't move your mouse or anything. As soon as that stuff pops up that you see on my screen here, as soon as it pops up, just hit Enter. And it does them all for you. That's flash fill. So Mona travel, and again it added the second letter, Mona supplies, Felipe travel. You can see what it's done. It learned, it sorted out on its own what you're going to do. So this is a really powerful tool. And then here you have the option, you can undo it if you don't want to, like if you accidentally hit Enter. But typically if you're going to use flash fill, you're going to want to use flash fill. So I'm going to do that one more time just to show you how this would work. So TCM, go here, type KTT, you hit it. If you don't pick it up right away, or if you continue typing the letters, you lose the ability to do the flash fill because it just assumes you don't want to do it if you keep typing. So that's why the first time I showed you when you just type the two in, the instructions don't really explain that, but it doesn't really work unless you stop right after the K. I think you could still get away with it with the first T too. So you would delete these and start again to TCM, Enter, K. Oh, look at that, cool. I haven't typed anything but K, and I just hit Enter, and it enters them all for you. So very cool thing. I don't believe there was something like this in 2010. This is pretty new though, Excel 2013, and it does it quite well. It's good at predicting and knowing what you're going to do. And if you want to watch the supplemental video I have on it, you can see that in week 2 as an optional video. So let's move on. That was a nice, cool step. So zoom out. So this is easy. This is the same way it works in most Microsoft applications. You want to zoom out to 90% just to make sure you're picking up all this stuff. So if you go over the View tab, so we're actually going to leave the Home tab and change tabs. Everything's categorized in Excel by tabs, and we've really only been working on the Home tab so far. We're going to go to the View tab here, and we're going to go here where it says 100%. We're going to click on Zoom and type in 90. Okay, if you click on 100, it just goes back to 100, right? So we're going to click Zoom and go to 90. They don't offer you that as an option, so you just go to Custom and go 90%. You have to make sure it's set to 90, or Sam will mark it incorrectly. Okay, they're going to know whether it's 90 or not. Cool. Step number 10. We're switching worksheets. So again, remember up there when I was like, oh, what's going on? I'm on the wrong worksheet, and then I figured it out. We are now switching worksheets, so make sure that you go to the expense by salesperson worksheet so that the next set of instructions makes sense. So switch worksheets. Good time to save your file. I should have already done that. I'm going to hit Control-S on my keyboard, or you just hit the save button up here. Make sure you're always saving. It's one of my big rules. A, B, S, always be saving. Back to the instructions. Let's go and change the orientation to landscape here on this worksheet. Don't do it on the wrong worksheet or it will mark you wrong. It even says, note, do not change the orientation of the expense detail worksheet. The SAM is a computer and it grades you on exact specifications. So this is done under the page layout tab using the orientation button, similar to Word. A lot of you that use Microsoft applications heavily are going to not have much of an issue with some of these steps because you're already going to know how to do them in other apps, and that's great. There's some crossover skills here. Portrait to landscape. You don't see much change because you're not past the print lines anyway, but it did change, and you can see here if you go there that landscape is highlighted. So plugging away here, we're almost, I mean there's a lot of steps in here, but we're almost halfway. These are not tough steps. So in cell A2, edit the cell content to read sales team expenses by salesperson. So if you don't want to have to type that out and miss any capital letters, you are more than free, or you guys are totally allowed to copy this. Just make sure you don't pick up extra spaces or like the period or something. If you pick up an extra space on one side or a period on the end of that, it will consider that a typo. You only need the text. So go to A2 and go right over top of it with that text. And again, either after you paste it or right before you paste it, you want to match the destination formatting because you don't want to bring it in with the other formatting because it didn't tell you to reformat it. It just said put the text in. So I've done that in the expense by salesperson worksheet. So still in the same worksheet. Change the height of row 3 to 15. So the same way you're able to change the column, you can change the height of a row, but with the same sort of reasons, I would sit somewhere in the row or highlight the row and use, we'll go back to the Home tab, the Format menu so that you know it's exact. And if you're on a Mac and you don't have it set to pixels, you will have to do a quick conversion there. There you go, row height's 15. In cell A5, edit the cell content to read salesperson. So we don't need to copy and paste that. I mean, that's just adding person to the end of sales. Hit enter. Change the width of column D to 19. So sit in column D or highlight column D, either one. Go to Format Width 19. Now, in the real world, you could go and use this method because nobody's going to check. You just make it however big you want. Nobody's going to check to see that it's exactly a certain width as long as it fits the content. It's just because you're being graded by a computer that I suggest you use this menu to make sure it's exact. And if we don't do autofit in here, I'll make sure to show you that at the end too. It's a nice skill to know. Enter the values shown in table 2 below corresponding cells. So again, from A6 to A10, because I taught you that quick way to do it, I'm going to show you. If you don't want to type all these out and have typos, copy them. And I don't think this is doing you a disservice by showing you how to kind of cheat off yourself a little bit, which is okay to cheat off yourself, right? Because it's good to know how to properly copy and paste without carrying formatting. And that goes here. And then I go paste with matching the destination formatting, and I'm done. Didn't have to type any of them out. And that's just a and you can also do it after match the destination formatting. You can do it before or after. But you don't just paste them in there and carry that formatting over because Sam is likely to mark you wrong for bad formatting. So in cell 6, enter a formula. They don't tell us which one. Okay. Enter a formula to determine the non-travel expenses, where the non-travel expenses equals the total expenses minus the travel expenses. Okay, well, that seems really complicated. No, guys, it's not. If they don't give you a specific function, it's, well, most of you probably didn't think that was complicated. I'm just trying to make sure you understand it. It is simple. They're just giving you a basic math problem. So when they say just enter a formula, I don't name a function. It's just a basic math problem, which will start with equals. Okay, and after the equals sign, you're going to take total expenses and take the travel expenses from them. So it's total expenses minus travel expenses. So it's B6 minus C6. You can type the cell references in, or you can just click on them as you're building the formula. Either one is acceptable, but you do not type in 853.98 minus 687.06. You always use cell references. If you use direct numbers, not only is it making more work for you as you build the formula, it also means that if you ever had to go back and change one of these, it wouldn't change in the formula. So you always use cell references. The beginning of the course to the end, always use cell references. 166.92. Once you do one of those, you can copy that formula down, D7 to D10. So there's a few different ways to copy. You can Control-C and then paste, Control-V, or you can just use the fill handle like I showed you last week and just drag it down and let go. Now be careful if you grab on the border, because if you grab on the border and you don't get the fill handle, you know you're just moving. And if you grab in the middle, you're just highlighting. Okay, so you got to get the fill handle if you want to copy. Let go. So click, drag, let go when you're to the point where you need to be. Copy the formula in cell A12, delete the text as of April 30th, 2016. So just go to A12. Make sure you're in the right spot, use the name box. Type A12 in there, hit enter, goes right to A12. Just hit delete on your keyboard. It's gone. That was probably one of the easiest steps you're ever going to get in a case. Done a bunch more little stuff. I'm going to hit save, Control S. Just make sure you're saving. Apply wrap text. So this is a good one. There is a way you can do this with the keyboard. I'm going to use the menu first, but I'll show you the keyboard method as well. Here in A13, we want to wrap the text. So there should be a button on your main home tab that enables you to just do this with a single click. Okay, and it'll wrap the text into the width that the column is already set at. I'm going to undo that. If I were to go into the cell, and anywhere in the cell, if I just hit enter, it enters the data. But if I'm inside the cell and there's some text and I hit Alt Enter and then hit enter, it'll wrap the text for me that way too. It knows that I'm trying to break the text up somewhere, but it doesn't necessarily do it in the best place if you use Alt Enter. Alt Enter you just use if you're in a hurry and you want to bring the text on to the next line. If you want it wrapped to fill up that space in the most ideal way, you would just use wrap text. There you go. So that's how you do that step. I showed you the Alt Enter thing just to show you a nice keyboard shortcut, but wrap text is what you're going to be doing here to make sure Sam marks it correctly. Okay, zoom to 110% here and leave the zoom. They almost make these too easy for you by reminding you to not mess with the zoom on the other worksheet. So I'm going to go back to the View tab. We've already done this. I'm going to go to Zoom and I'm going to go to 110. They don't leave it as an option, so again you got to type it in custom. 110. And as soon as you go down there and start typing it in, it chooses custom as your choice for you. So click OK. I'm zoomed at 110. And now I'm going to move back to the expense detail worksheet. Oh no, I'm moving worksheets here. This is, okay, nice. So, and I was kind of upset this wasn't in the first case. So we're doing this now. Moving worksheets around, this is going to happen quite often. You could have like 30, 40, 50 worksheets down here. You're going to want to move them around. What is the maximum number? Okay, I just wanted to Google that to make sure that I gave you the right number. It's 255 worksheets that you're allowed to have in a workbook. And you can have so many hyperlinks and so many different types of charts linked to worksheets and all sorts of stuff. You can make an Excel file pretty enormous. And if you were to go and Google stuff like that, Microsoft will have pretty cool pages that actually show you the different limits and maximums and minimums of stuff. So things like this. I just got this at the Office website. Yeah, so it's kind of neat. You can have that many worksheets. So here in this step, we are going to move the expense detail worksheet to the left of the expense by salesperson worksheet. Okay, and it gives you a tip. So the expense detail worksheet should be between the documentation sheet. So they don't do more than they tell you to do, because then Sam starts marking you wrong. You are being graded by a computer. So all they want you to do is move this over here. Don't move it all the way to the front. So how am I doing that? I'm clicking on the tab, the worksheet tab, and then I'm dragging while I'm still clicked, and then I'm letting go. Okay, very easy. Move it to the end, back there, move it back there. That's where it needs to be. So they wanted you to swap those two positions out. So expense details is first. Easiest way to do it, click, drag, unclick. Drag and drop, like a Mac, okay? And then finally, insert a new worksheet into the new workbook and rename it expenses by category and move this to the end. Okay, so you can set it up to be at the end while you're making it, or you can move it there after. Either way, you'll be marked right. Make sure that you put the proper name in. If you need to copy and paste it, I mean, go ahead and do that. You know, I think 3 words you should be able to type out without any typos, but you got to remember those capital letters too. So, easiest way to insert a new worksheet. You can do it from the insert menu, but I think this is even easier to go like this and click that plus button. But then you're not given the option of where to put it. That's true. So you just move it over there after. And to rename a worksheet, you right click on the tab. You can also change the tab colors in there to a variety of colors and theme colors. I'm going to rename and just paste that in. Hit enter and it's done. And that was moved to the end of the workbook. Okay, so you can kind of scroll through and make sure you covered everything, but remember that you get 2 attempts too to submit them. So if you make a mistake, you can always go back and fix that and submit it. And I demoed that process in the first case video. You don't want to fix it in the file they return back to you. You look at that file to see what you messed up in your reports, and then you go and fix it in the original file. So your workbook should look like the Excel figure below. So they give you a nice picture. You could see these are in that order. It looks just like mine. Use flash fill to get that done. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm looking over. Everything looks good. Go here. Save your file. Okay. It doesn't matter which worksheet you're on. Just save your file. Do not ever submit. Don't submit to SAM without saving your file, bottom line. And the thing about SAM, it's almost like they set it up this way on purpose to make you better file managers. It will allow you to submit this file before you close it. So one good rule to make for yourself is to always close it, because if you haven't saved the changes yet, it'll prompt you to save it as you close it. And assuming you put it in a place that's going to be easy to find, you know where to go get it, you can browse, go to your desktop. We'll see if we've timed out. I think I was quick enough for that not to time out. Grab the file, hit submit. As long as you named it right, you get the 3 green check marks, and within a matter of minutes, usually not too many, you will have your grade in reports. So just like last week, we're going to go to reports and check for it. Okay, that was fast. It's already there. You don't see my stuff from last week there because I was doing that in a dummy student account. So I would go here, and I would grab the file. You can open this run right up because you're not going to resave it or use it for anything. You're just going to look for mistakes. So I got 100. That's awesome. Now if you didn't, it would have a red X next to the thing you did wrong, and if you went to that worksheet, it would actually have a little comment on that cell to show you what you did wrong, and you would have to click Enable Editing to be able to see those comments. And if that is the case, if you did make some mistakes, you would go back to the original file, which is here for me on my desktop, and you would change that one and resubmit, because you get 2 submissions every week. These ones are not graded pass-fail like the quizzes. The mark you get is the mark you get. So prior to the weekly deadline that your professor's given you, you should get the best grade you can by using both submissions. If you get 100 the first time around, that's great. So as soon as you're done with the project, I would then recommend going over and taking the quiz. And again, if you need any, this is the video that I'm putting in the playlist, the additional training on flash fill, which I think is a really cool feature. So if you want some more info on that, you'll see that in the playlist as an optional video. And back into SAM, once you're done, don't forget to go and take your quiz. So you go back to activity list, get into the week 2 quiz, and that works from anywhere, as I explained during the video. Cool. So that's it for this week's lecture. At the end here, I didn't want to forget to tell you, as you're doing these, even though you technically have a saved version, in the graded file when you're uploading it, you never know what can happen. You never know what you're going to need to prove to your professor or something. I would save all the work you're doing just for the semester while you're doing it in your FOL locker. So every time you finish a case, I would just throw it in your FOL locker just for safekeeping. So excuse me, sorry guys. I didn't show you this in I'm going to have to quit soon. My allergies are really getting to me this week. I didn't show you this in the first video, so I'm going to quickly show you here at the end. When you're logged into FOL, from your home page, there's a locker. Go here. This is like your own virtual cloud for Fanch Online. You can also get to the locker from your individual courses as well. You can just upload a file right here, upload files. So you can even make a folder by making a folder and putting all your case files in there. I just think it's good, just a second measure, just to make sure you never lose any work, okay? But for the most part, I mean, if Sam takes it and uploads it, then you've automatically got a copy anyway. So that is it for this week, and that'll be the end of this video. That was a fairly short one. They will get longer, the work will get a bit tougher, but the first few weeks are fairly basic. So if you've used Excel before, it'll be nice and easy for you. If you haven't, it's a great way to start with the basics, okay? So thanks again for watching, and I will see you next week in the virtual classroom for the week 3 lecture.